Hi, I'm Tommy Vincent, your host of Stay a While podcast, recording live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 60. This season, we have some phenomenal guests that are joining us at the Stay a While table. So pull up a seat, get comfortable, and come and stay a while. Tune into our conversations to receive nourishment for your mind, your body, and your soul. Hi, everyone. This is your personal invitation to come, take a seat, and stay a while. I am your host, Tommy Vincent, and today, joining us on Stay a While podcast, we have April Simpkins. Today's conversation is one I hold with care. It's rooted in transforming grief into advocacy. I'm honored to welcome April to Stay a While. April is the mother of Cheslie Kryst, whose light and compassion touched so many lives. Through unimaginable loss, April has chosen purpose, drawing from both her lived experience and her decades-long career as a human resource leader. She is helping families and organizations better understand mental illness, remove stigma, and create space for honest and hopeful conversations. April, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
It is my honor and my privilege to have you here. You're here at Super Bowl 60.
Yes.
And you have been full from a scheduling perspective, as we talked about before we started taping. And you're here doing meaningful work.
Yes.
You're an ambassador for NAMI, which allows for you to take what you do personally and even elevate it even further on a national platform.
Yes.
So can you talk about some of the things and the ways you're activating this week to make sure that the message that you want people to have surrounding mental health and the importance of it and how you're making sure it goes forward so that people walk away transformed?
Thank you for that. I think it's so important anytime I open my mouth that I leave people with something actionable, something they can do right this minute that's not hard, difficult. It can implement in their personal life, their professional life, whether I'm speaking at a luncheon or doing a podcast. I always want people to know a couple of things. One, you're not alone. What you are feeling or thinking may be real. It's not uncommon for people to wear an outward mask that makes them appear like they're fine when they know they're struggling inside. And so I fight to open up these conversations where they are comfortable saying, I'm not okay, and here's what I'm going to do about it.
So what does that look like for someone if, and I'm going to use myself as an example.
Yes.
When I had my bout of depression, I did not know that I was not okay because I grew up where if anyone was struggling with their mental health, they knew how to press through. And they may have experienced things behind closed doors. However, I witnessed what I viewed as strength, especially with the women in my family.
Yes.
Where they just plowed on through. We didn't miss a beat, or at least I thought, hindsight, I see some things now. And so when I had my bout of depression, I didn't recognize any symptoms. So can you talk about what are some of the things we should be looking for that is an indication, you know what? Something's not right here and I am not okay.
Yes. I love that you say that. I read a report with the National Institute of Health, NIH, and they did the Superwoman schema and really focused it around Black women because we carry an internal trauma. We carry a weight of, but I still got to show up no matter what is happening. I love the things that they pointed out and I've applied them to my life and I see them moving in other people's lives. We tend to want to push on because that's what we've been taught and that's what we've seen, even though we know something's going on inside. And it's that moment when you are pushing through and numb. You are just going through these motions because they have to be done. And on the outside, it looks like you're winning, but on the inside, it feels like you're not. That's a sign that something's going on with my mental state that I need to take a moment and focus on. And I don't think it's wise for people to try to self-diagnose, to try to figure it out on your own. And that's why it's important to connect with an organization like NAMI all throughout the country. Have a counselor that you're speaking with. It's those moments when you need to start saying it out loud so you can name it and address it and get the help and support that you need. It happens to so many of us. We are taught to power through. It's what we see, people just powering through. And that's what it looks like on the outside. But on the inside, we're crashing.
Absolutely. So I have this concern with especially women today, where on social media, you will hear things like how to have a soft life, and ways that tools and things you could put in place for you to have a soft life. And that soft life, to me, the danger zone is that you believe in a self-diagnosis that if I take the bubble baths, if I get the facials, if I do those things, that somehow the numbness is going to go away. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Whenever I'm talking to someone about mental health, and this is whether we're supporting someone or looking internally, I tend to divide it up into a couple of categories. Is my mental health taxed? Am I feeling burnout right now? Am I stressed over something that's going to come and pass? Or has my mental health been affected? Something has changed and pivoted my life, a divorce, a loss of a loved one, an empty nester. When your mental health is taxed, that's when you really want to turn to self-care to help you get through those moments, whether it's breathing exercises, making sure you're getting enough rest, the bubble bath to help you unwind. Those things will absolutely help you when your mental health is taxed. But when your mental health has been affected, something has happened that has changed what feels like your DNA. You need to reach out to resources. You need to learn how to now live in this new space that maybe you didn't ask for or weren't anticipating. Those things look very different. So I appreciate all of the leaning into the soft life. I think that will absolutely help you when your mental health is taxed and you need to step back for a moment to regroup. But when your mental health has been affected, something has happened that has pivoted your life, you need support and resources to help you through those moments. It's not that you're not worthy of softness, it's that there's something that's gone deeper that we need to connect with and deal with.
That's a really great way of explaining it, because, and I never thought of it that way, where there's a difference between something that, to your point, it's a temporary moment in time, and it feels
heavy.
Yes. But it's going to go away.
Exactly.
But when it doesn't go away,
That's right.
there's something deeper
That's right.
that we need to address. And I think that is really good wisdom
Yes.
for people to walk away with, because I believe it's imperative that we take charge of our mental health.
We have to.
It's no different than the ways that we do other things for ourselves.
Yes.
We're looking to create not just a temporary change, we're looking to create permanent change.
That's
like
right.
going to the gym, like going to the doctors and addressing other aspects of your health.
That's right.
It's important that we're addressing our brains in the process. You brought up grief, and I know for you that is something that you are familiar with.
Yes.
With your daughter, Cheslie. Can you just talk about, for yourself, how you were able to draw on a moment that you knew would change your life forever? So this wasn't temporary. This will be with you forever.
That's right.
What are some things that you have done and are doing to sustain your mental health?
Losing Cheslie, I really believe, just changed my whole DNA. I have 6 children. She was second in line, but she was the child of mine who was most like me. We shared so many similarities. So beyond me loving her as my daughter, I loved her too as a best friend. We were very close. And so losing her felt like it was an insurmountable loss. But the reality is, as we were saying in the beginning, I had 5 children who were still with me. I have 5 children who still needed their mom, and a husband who still needed his wife, and a granddaughter who still needed her Gigi. And so, me staying in the place where I was right after I lost Cheslie was not an option. I had to move forward. But finding that path forward through the grief, it was like walking through the forest in the dark. I just don't know which way I'm going to go with this. And the pain was so deep, it needed somewhere to go. And that's when I turned to advocacy. And I took all of that feeling that I had, the feeling like, would anybody even understand when I say, I'm hurting so deep, I don't know where the bottom is. And I knew that I'm not alone. There are other people feeling this. And the more I talk, the more they will feel okay saying, April, I understand because I felt that too. I felt that way too. And that's what I needed to do. I needed to make this pivot. And as I felt pain, I channeled it into purpose and said, any place that will allow me to speak, I'm going to speak about what this feels like so that they will know they're not alone. What they're experiencing is not just for them. There is a community of people who understand and can feel it with you. And that has just, honestly, it set me on this path. I still have grief. I learned early on after losing Cheslie that grief is always going to be with me. I always say that grief and I are doing life together now. Sometimes I'm in the driver's seat, sometimes grief is in the driver's seat, and I just have to go along with it and feel what I'm feeling. And I tell that to my children as well. Everyone in our family experienced grief differently when we lost Cheslie. She has a father, she has a stepfather. They felt very differently. She has siblings who were in her age category. I have 2 younger children who saw her very differently. And so even in watching my family and myself deal with grief, I learned that it doesn't have a face. Grief changes. And learning that helps me talk with people. Some people feel what I feel. Some people, their feelings and their grief is different, and that's okay. But when that feeling feels desperate, that's when we really need to channel for help. Really need to channel for help.
April, when you're out speaking, or if you had an opportunity to speak to every parent in the world, right? Because there's no borders,
Right,
to grief. There's no borders to, having children that we love
right.
dearly. If there was something you just wish everyone knew as a parent, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Let me start by saying this. Every human in the world through the ages learned the same language, and that is nonverbal. As newborns, as babies, as toddlers, we may not have the words, but we can emulate what we see, right? We learn to brush our teeth because we saw someone doing this. We learn to brush our hair because we saw someone doing this. And the same comes with taking care of our mental health. And so as parents, we have to first emulate what we want our children to do. And so it really does start with us. I say this because before I lost Cheslie and talking about the superwoman schema, I was that mom that felt like my children can't see me sweat. Like they're dependent on me to make sure everything gets taken care of. So I just got to suck it up and just deal with it. And after I lost Cheslie, I realized that's not the way that I want to parent anymore. It's going to be okay for my children to see me cry. It's going to be okay for them to see me perplexed or hurting or not being able to climb out of that bed because I'm depressed. And I need to tell them about it, and I need to tell them what I'm going to do about it. I need to keep it real with my children. So when they feel it, they emulate it too. I tell every parent, step 1, do that for yourself. You go get a counselor so you can tell your child the impact of having that counselor on your life. You go get mental health first aid certified so you know how to listen to yourself, but you also have the words to use when listening to your child. You go do your research on what these symptoms may look like in you and your child. And to speak of NAMI, NAMI.org has got an extensive library for parents to say, if you see this, here's a step, or you might notice this in their eating habits, in their study habits. This may mean this, go here for support. You as a parent need to do those things first so that you can help your children.
Yes.
When we see our children in distress, we want to handle it. We want to take care of it all. But your mental health feels like a personal, private battle with others there to support you. So you need to equip your children firsthand and with knowledge you've gained so that you can support them.
You know, and I shared how I didn't know the symptoms of my depression. And it was as a result of those weren't the types of conversations we had at home. And I know from my mom, it's learned.
Yes.
You know, she had a mother and my grandmother had a mother that when they talked about, or they didn't talk about those things they were experiencing.
Yes.
So they cried behind the door and then they dried their tears, came out the room and just did what they needed to do for us.
Yes.
So we were not aware of the struggles and the challenges that they were experiencing. I wasn't aware with my mother and my grandmother. And so for me, there were some things, some tears, but I learned how to just get myself together and then go forward with my day. And so I think that that is invaluable, what you just shared, and just presenting opportunities so people know, parents know, not only are there resources for you to help navigate the mental health with your children, but you also deserve that for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My friends would say to me, you know, April, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? And I would immediately say, go get mental health first aid certified, and then you will be able to help me because you'll have the words and the understanding.
Now, where does one go to do that?
There is a website called mentalhealthfirstaid.org, and you can find a class it's an 8-hour class. You can do it in person or virtually. It's not expensive. There are some who have funding, so you may be able to do it for free. I cannot stress enough for people to do it. They have mental health first aid for adults and for teens.
Oh, wow.
So that teens can learn how to support one another. You know, one of the first things I taught my children was the difference between a confidant and a friend. All your friends aren't confidants. So let's talk about what that looks like. And so for a friend, a teen, a peer to get that certification, they then could be a confidant to their friends because they know what to do when someone says, I'm not okay, and I haven't been okay, or this is really bothering me. They know the steps to take, the words to say, and how to get that person to resources that can support them. Very important.
I know that you have extensive background in HR.
Yes.
And you also, in addition to speaking engagements that you do all over the nation, you also do a lot of work with executives at companies that we're familiar with. Can you talk about that some and why you think it's important for executives to have that type of training and how that impacts their ability to lead?
Yes. I have had the pleasure and honor of speaking to executives at corporations like Coca-Cola, Eli Lilly, Netflix, Michael J. Fox Foundation. And in the workplace, when you are in a leadership position, you are managing a lot. And we often hear this in the workplace. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Well, everyone doesn't have a solution when they're not okay. And so one of the things I often talk about is psychological safety at work. Someone not being afraid to come to you as a leader and say, I'm not okay, or I'm really anxious, I missed this deadline. And you know how to create a space for them so that they're not afraid, so they can get the support they need, and the company can move forward. When we have people who don't feel psychologically safe in the workplace, they keep those secrets. They hide, they shuffle things, and it creates a tremendous amount of anxiety that's going to permeate the culture in the organization. So when we learn things like how to point employees to resources, especially as HR professionals, we sometimes tout ourselves as the in-house therapist. And you're not trained for that. So the more you know what resources to refer people to, the more empowered you feel and the more comfortable they feel coming to you. When you are able to say, I hear you talking about this struggle you're having at home with your children or your husband. Are you aware that you can reach out to NAMI and get connected with a support group? Have you thought about calling 988, the crisis and suicide lifeline, helpline for support? Remind your children that they can call or chat with. When you as a person can say, here are the resources available to support you, it's a much more comfortable and easier conversation. And so I enjoy my work, kind of traveling the country and talking to executives. Mental health in the workplace seems to be almost a scary topic. We are so accustomed to saying, I'm fine, because we actually assume that if we're not okay, it could cost me my job, it can cost me that promotion, that transfer. So it's a lot easier to just go with the flow and suck it up. And while you may think that, no one can tell you're not okay. When those people keep asking you, are you okay? It's because they can see that change. And how much better if they can say, you don't seem yourself. I'm not sure if everything is okay, but if it's not, there are resources out there for you. And be able to point to the intranet at work or the resources available at work. So people don't feel like they have to tell you their life story, but they're going to get the support they need because everyone in that workplace knows how to get connected to the resources.
Yeah, a couple of things there. One, I am a leader where it drives me nuts when people come to me with a problem and they have not worked to identify solutions. That is me all day long. I'm also the type of person, if there's something going on, just tell me.
Yes.
Because then I can manage my expectations.
Yes.
And we can figure out, do we need to make adjustments so that you're able to, manage what you're tasked with managing.
That's right.
And I also understand where I need to make the adjustments on my end to get done what needs to be done.
That's right.
But it is, and part of that for me is actually as a result of me wearing that superwoman cape for a long time. If I'm putting you on my team, I'm bringing you here because I need for you to do this.
That's right.
For me so I can do the other things I want to focus on. And so when you're not handling your end of the bargain where I'm saying this is where I need help, then I'm like, you're asking me to put back on this cape. Now this cape had me laid out in the bed.
That's right.
And then I'm like, I'm not going back in the bed. So it's like, as a leader, just that balance of pointing to resources, but also still holding people accountable for what they're responsible for doing.
I love that you say that because when Cheslie passed, I was the Chief Human Resources Officer for a national organization. I was where the buck stopped in my department and with some of the executives. And so when I transitioned back, it was almost counterintuitive to ask the director of HR for support when I felt like that's my job to support you. And so whenever I'm talking to teams at work and executives about mental health in the workplace, I always say, remind people how to advocate for themselves. Make it a safe space for them to advocate, to know who they need to talk to, what it is they need to share, what specifically they need, and how can we make a plan? How can we make a plan? So if you're talking about someone who is struggling, like I was with a loss of my daughter, I needed to talk to the director of HR, and my need was for them to understand that I worked from home. We were a remote work team.
Okay.
And so I'm not able to leave physically or psychologically all of the reminders of Cheslie. When I would go from my office to the kitchen to get a snack, I'm walking past pictures and memories that's hard. And I don't know when grief is going to strike. So I said, I need to be able to kind of back out of something. It may seem last minute so that I can just process where I am. That was my ask. So now we had to formulate a plan. And our plan was simply this. When I returned to work for the following 60 days, the director or my boss, the CEO, would be copied on every meeting I had and every email that went out or came in. So they would know what's going on.
Absolutely.
So if I said to my director, I can't make this meeting this afternoon, I'm just not prepared. I need to just kind of sit with my grief for a moment. It didn't upset an apple cart. The business continuity plan was there because she had been copied on every email or message concerning the meeting. She had access to what she needed. She could step in a moment's notice. That is advocacy at work. That is me not dumping a problem on her, but us figuring out a way to make it work for me and for the business.
Yeah, no, that's good. So before we wrap up our conversation, I would like to ask you a question. It's about food. And you're like, girl, why are we talking about food? Well, I am a chef.
I know that.
And I have a book, The Table of Life. And the premise of the book is to teach people how to build their own tables, one dish at a time, using all of the ingredients of their life. So when you think about the ingredients of your life, what would you say is the key ingredient in all of your dishes that allows you to be you?
Empathy
Empathy.
and compassion.
Girl, that's 2 ingredients now.
Okay, empathy. Absolutely empathy. Empathy is that heart connection. I think of it almost in the food. You know, you want that feeling that someone put their heart in it. I want to say their foot in it, but put their heart in it. And empathy in life. You know, whether it's someone winning well and you are there supporting them, cheering them on. I want that for myself. I want that for others. Or whether you suffered an unimaginable loss or defeat or felt like you got passed over, whether that's near someone else, empathy needs to be there so that we feel connected. And then the little sprinkling of compassion, you can follow along with it. But absolutely the empathy.
Well, thank you for that. So before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to share? And also make sure you let us know for the work that you're doing, where people can find you and learn more and get information so that they too can ensure that they're working on their mental health.
I love that. Yes, I would like to leave one final thought. Before my daughter passed, she wrote a manuscript. And in her final wishes, she asked me to see that manuscript be published. And so I went on a 2-year journey to make that wish happen, and did. In April of 24, her book was released by the time you read this, and it went on to become a New York Times bestseller. What I love about the book is that the CEO of NAMI, Dan Gillison, wrote the afterword. And if I could just quote him so eloquently, he said, check on your strong friends, check on your happy friends, check on the successful friends, and check in on yourself. And so I want to remind people to do that. Check on others and check in on yourself. People can find me at aprilsimpkins.com. I talk about my advocacy work there. I talk about my speaking work, and just all the things I'm passionate about.
Well, I truly appreciate you taking time out of your full schedule this week and coming by and staying a while with me. And always know that you have a seat at my table.
It was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you felt the love and connection in today's conversation. Every woman you heard from has faced the impossible and emerged stronger. This is your personal invitation to stay a while longer at TommyV.com. That's TOMMIV.com for more inspiration for your mind, body, and soul. And let's not forget your belly. You're always welcome at my table. Please be sure to subscribe, make yourself at home, and stay a while.